Predator, the other killer alien. It's the well-armed creature that arrived from the stars to brutalize man. Not for survival, food, or to conquer the planet, the Predator hunts for the thrill of the game and the chance to prove his masculine dominance. And while the iconography of this monster has mostly been associated with fighting the xenomorphs, there is more to this galactic hunter who collects skulls. Well, at least for some of the Predator movies, but especially the first one.
Predator.
1987's Predator arrived at a time when brutal action movie machismo was all the rage at the cinema. But unlike movies such as Commando, Rambo, and Death Wish, Predator is a film where the heroes don't succeed in gunning down a powerful enemy. Rather, it's about a group of men perceived as tough, but who are deceived and then mostly slaughtered by an enemy with a massive technological advantage. This is why, despite the setting, tone, and ensemble, Predator has more in common with horror than action. It is a slasher movie where those targeted by the killer are not dopey teens in suburbia, but well-armed mercenaries in the jungle. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Dutch, the leader of a paramilitary group. His team is hired by the CIA to rescue a cabinet minister whose helicopter crashed in a Central American jungle. Accompanying his team is Dylan, played by Carl Weathers. Now, Dylan served with Dutch in Vietnam and now acts as a CIA agent. When the two are reunited, they grasp hands and immediately engage in friendly arm wrestling. And this scene has become immortalized online as the epic handshake meme, often used to highlight two powerful entities joining forces. Now, those who use this meme seem to forget that Dutch and Dylan do not exactly make a great team. While arm wrestling, Dutch comments on Dylan's CIA job and how it has softened him with his pencil pushing. Although seen on the surface as a manly display of respect, the CIA has changed Dylan, but not in a physical way. It isn't until Dylan, Dutch, and the rest of the crew are deep in the jungle, encountering guerrilla soldiers, that they learn the truth. There is no cabinet minister. They were deceived by Dylan. Dutch and his team were forced into slaughtering a Soviet military camp to prevent an invasion, a mission that Dutch did not and would not agree to. You truly cannot judge a man by his epic handshake. It is only after destroying the camp and taking along the surviving guerrilla Anna as a prisoner that the unit becomes the target of the alien Predator. The team that almost effortlessly blew up a military camp now faces an alien threat that can outsmart and outgun them. One by one, the men are slaughtered in unceremonious ways by the cloaked Predator. It doesn't matter how big the muscles or miniguns are when faced with such a threat. When Dutch is all that is left of the group, he wins not by being stronger, but by being smarter. He figures out that the Predator is unable to scan his heat signature through mud. He uses the jungle's environment to create traps. And while Dutch ultimately survives, as does the escaping Anna, it is only after a wounded Predator detonates a self-destruct device that takes out the entire area. What a sore loser. An alien who would much rather kill himself than go home without Arnold's spine. The Predator is mostly cloaked until the big showdown, and I like the build-up and the uncertainty about the enemy being faced here. Green Berets had previously entered this area for the first botched mission, but were murdered by suspicious means, and it's only through further investigation in the jungle that they realize something alien is hunting them. The hunt, however, is not for food or so the Predator can dominate the area. This is hunting for sport. More specifically, the Predator is engaging in trophy hunting. At one point, Anna describes the Predator as the demon who makes trophies of man. He hangs his slaughtered prey and collects their skulls as a symbol of status. In addition to status, trophy hunting has become closely associated with manhood. That said, it has been challenged in fiction, dating back to the 1887 Lost World novel, She. In that book, two Englishmen, Leo and Holly, venture into Africa and discover Aisha, an immortal queen who can grant eternal life. Despite Leo's manly looks and Holly's manly smarts, the two are dominated by this powerful woman. Men who found themselves above animals and women are now reduced in the wild. Consider this quote from Madhudya Sinha's Triangular Erotics, The Politics of Masculinity, Imperialism, and Big Game Hunting in Ryder Haggard's She. Quote, "In the late 19th century, the act and sport of hunting was simultaneously a mark of the fitness of the dominant race, an emblem of imperial rule, and an allegory of human, particularly sexual, affairs. In Rider Haggard's She, these markers are interwoven into a complex fabric to reveal both radically conservative and homosocial versions of manhood. The continuum between the two versions is almost always absent, at best oddly out of place, when it appears. Both versions of manhood appear to be resistant to the existing social structures, and this is nowhere more clearly revealed than through the body of the animal and feminine other. Given that trophy hunting has an additional homoerotic association, that sensation can be felt in how the Predator movie depicts men. This goes far beyond the sight of sweaty men with bulging biceps. It even goes beyond the phallic imagery of Dutch smoking massive cigars and Billy guzzling water out of a long vine. En route to the jungle, Hawkins, played by Shane Black, makes a joke about pussies that nobody finds funny, even after explaining the joke. Blaine, played by Jesse Ventura, offers his men chewing tobacco, and when they decline, he calls them a homophobic slur and declares himself a sexual tyrannosaurus. All of this talk about being straight and not gay doesn't reflect how these men interact throughout the film. When they take Anna as a prisoner, none of them view her as somebody to make a pass at. Anna isn't really treated much like a person either. She does provide some valuable information about the Predator, but most of the movie has her being led around as someone to be rescued or to witness the Predator's kills and nothing more. She isn't even targeted by the Predator, as the alien apparently only attacks those with weapons that pose a threat. She does reach for a weapon at one point, but Dutch stops her and tells her to get to the chopper. So the film is entirely about one creature with a vaginal looking mouth, specifically hunting violent, sweaty men in the jungle, preying on their vulnerabilities and wanting to use their bodies as his trophies. Are you starting to see the homoeroticism yet? Perhaps the most overt display of homoeroticism in the movie is the relationship between Blaine and Mac. In the first half of the movie, Mac is rather cold and controlled as he intimidates Dylan. But when Blaine dies at the hands of the Predator, Mac takes it pretty hard. He is in shock about his friend's death. He has a quiet moment alone at night where he is kind of like talking to his spirit. He gets incredibly emotional when the opportunity arises for revenge. Angry and sad, Mac pursues the Predator while erratically singing the lyrics to Little Richard's Long Tall Sally, which was the music playing on the helicopter earlier. That was their song, the song that played as Blaine called him a homophobic slur. Now, some might argue that nothing about Mac's grief is homoerotic and that Mac just had a very strong connection with Blaine as a friend, but nobody else in the movie gets this distraught over the death of their comrades. Dutch served in Vietnam with Dylan, and there's never a moment after Dylan's death when Dutch is broken up about losing a fellow soldier, or any of his men for that matter. And Mac's grief about Blaine extends far beyond mere brotherhood. Now, this is not to say that men displaying any emotion towards the loss of a male friend are gay for showing any emotion at all. However, the culture surrounding what it means to be a man often discourages displays of affection, even when platonic. The film seems to challenge these insecurities by having men who start the film with so much action movie machismo being reduced to vulnerable emotional victims. Oh, and also, the Predator spending most of the movie concealed with camouflage has been associated with the AIDS crisis, where you know how it silently consumed gay men while seemingly invisible. Now look, you can ignore all the queer theory you want, but I'm sorry, you don't make a film where men talk about how non-gay they are and then follow that with scenes of glistening muscles and emotional vulnerabilities and not think that there's something going on here. It's something to consider amid all the explosive, fiery action, which is incredibly fun. I really do like this movie. Now, despite the Predator blowing himself up at the end of the movie, this would not be the last that we would see of this hunting alien. Oh no, there were plenty more Predator movies that followed, where the homoeroticism was dialed back and the weaponry was upgraded.
Predator 2.
He's in town with a few days to kill.
1990's Predator 2 shifts the aliens' hunting grounds from the wildlife jungle to the concrete jungle. A jungle to jungle, if you will. Now, prior to writing this essay, I had not seen Predator 2 since I was a kid, and the only aspect I recall was that it was slightly more violent than the first Predator movie. After rewatching it recently, I can say that I was wrong. Predator 2 is not slightly more violent than Predator. It is ridiculously more violent than Predator. The opening scenes observe the not-so-futuristic Los Angeles of 1997 amid a heat wave. Jamaican and Colombian gangs engage in violence with the police, and it's just a lot of violence within the first few minutes, with gunfire and exploding cars. Danny Glover stars as LAPD officer Mike Harrigan. In the opening shootout, Mike guns down some violent gangsters with a big gun he favors over his smaller guns. The gangsters who get gunned down are just ridiculous. They never feel like real characters, and the only one we get to know that much is El Scorpio, whose only traits include snorting cocaine and shooting at cops. I mean, honestly, if there were a Predator Saturday morning cartoon, I could easily see these characters being generic bad guys on such a show. The casting of this movie is just ridiculous. You have Gary Busey playing Keys, an agent of the DEA on a special task force focused on handling the Predator. Bill Paxton plays the annoying Detective Jerry, filling the movie's quota of obnoxious sex jokes. Adam Baldwin also plays a DEA agent. And in one of the movie's wildest casting choices, you have Morton Downey Jr. playing the loud, pushy TV journalist Tony. And if you're familiar with Downey's fame as a trash TV talk show host, this casting is too fitting. Now, the propaganda is rather high in this movie. The gangsters are all treated like over-the-top villains that deserve to be slaughtered, all of them just happening to be non-white. Harrigan wants revenge on the Predator for killing his partner, and not in the emotional way that Mac did in the previous movie. No, it's just police brutality being rationalized without a moment of emotional grief. Tony is portrayed as a journalist who is too nosy and suspicious of police conspiracies, but his news stories support the police. His coverage of the Predator's murders lists the victims as, quote, 5 assorted drug trash and 1 good cop. Keep in mind, this is the reporter the cops hate. I sure as shit don't want to meet the reporter they love. Now, there is better representation of women in this movie, but there are still some big problems with this aspect. There is a woman in the police force, as Detective Leona is recognized in the foreground. Jerry attempts to come on to her and gets hit in the genitals as a result. She is treated more like just one of the boys until one scene when she is not, and just put a pin in that one for later. There is also a pathologist played by an older woman, but she only shows up for one scene to spout some exposition. There's an old woman whose apartment is vandalized by the Predator and Harrigan, and when Harrigan says he's a cop, the woman just says, "I don't think he gives a shit." She is the best character. A notable aspect of the Predator in this sequel is how he will not kill women or children. The Predator encounters a child with a toy weapon, but scans the object as non-threatening and does not attack. I mean, how is the Predator better at handling kids than human cops? There's another Anna in this movie to witness the Predator slaughter, but she is treated even worse. She's just some nameless woman having sex with one of the Colombian gang leaders, and she witnesses the Jamaicans killing this leader, and then the Jamaicans being slaughtered by the Predator. All of this happens when she is completely nude and terrified. She is spared from being murdered so that she can tell the cops that she witnessed El Diablo. Now, some would argue that the Predator is not sparing women so much as not attacking those who are unarmed or pose no threat. However, the Predator is still framed in this movie as an alien who does not kill women or children, less out of code and more just for how the movie is written. Consider Leona when she pursues the Predator. I mean, the alien at this point has already killed Detective Jerry, and since Leona has her gun out, she should be next. But the Predator does not kill her because his heat vision reveals that she's pregnant. There is no implication that Leona was pregnant prior to this scene. It's just sort of an out for the Predator not to murder a woman that clearly would have been his next kill. It's also a pointless inclusion considering that Leona plays no role in the movie past this point, so there's no reason to spare her. She was already a poorly defined character, and her send-off makes this characterization even worse. The only entertaining aspect of this technicality is how it could be used against the Predator. Like, why not arm a group of pregnant women to attack the Predator? He wouldn't be able to use as many lethal weapons against them, leaving him at a huge disadvantage. And look, I know this is absurd, but considering that the movie spends so much time trying to study and outsmart the Predator, the mind wanders to such wild thoughts. The human conflict is not as compelling this time around. Harrigan and Keyes clash, but it's only about how to handle the Predator. Keyes wants to capture and study the Predator, while Harrigan wants to murder the Predator to get revenge for his partner. The movie wants us to root for Harrigan, but I just don't. Keyes has a legit reason to bring in the Predator. He is aware of the long history that this alien species has in targeting Earth. Better studying this creature could provide a defense against them and a better understanding of their hunting culture. Harrigan doesn't even make a compelling case for killing the Predator. He just keeps telling Keyes to fuck off so he can have his close combat showdown with the alien who murdered his friend. Also, quick side note, for anybody who thought the Predator's mouth resembling a vagina was reaching too far, it should be noted that Harrigan, when observing the Predator without a mask, calls him Pussyface. So after a lot of chasing and fighting and quoting from the first movie, Harrigan follows the Predator to his hidden starship. He finally gets his revenge and the Predator is killed. No traps required. But then several Predators emerge from the ship's corners. And rather than kill Harrigan for defeating one of their own and entering their ship, they just acknowledge it was a fair fight and let him go. However, before leaving the ship, one of the Predators tosses him a parting gift of an old pistol, and I don't know why they give this to him. I mean, in terms of world building, I get it. It's meant to establish that the Predators have been hunting on Earth for centuries. I just don't know why they specifically grant this item to Harrigan. Like, it honestly just comes off rather comical. Like, the Predator would just, like, dug around in his pockets for a gift. It's like, oh, hey, this is a human weapon. You like this, right? Once again, the movie ends with the male lead being silent and traumatized by the events, but not before being hassled by one of Keyes' men about screwing up the operation and letting the ship get away. Now, a better film might have taken a moment to highlight the emptiness of revenge and the pointless destruction of the hunt, but Danny Glover is too old for this shit, so he just kind of staggers around for a bit until the movie ends. Predator 2 is a huge downgrade from the first movie. The men are less compelling, the violence is too cartoonishly over the top, and the women are still poorly written. The only thing it has going for it is more Predator stuff and lore. Because I do recall the one scene that blew my young mind when Harrigan found a xenomorph skull among the Predator's trophies. And following this movie, the Predator became closely associated with aliens, as the two creatures would fight each other in various video games and comic books. So given that, instead of continuing onward with the Predator story thus far, the next Predator movie would be a crossover. 2004's Alien vs. Predator chronologically appears as both a sequel to Predator 2 and a prequel to Alien, since it is set in the year 2004. The story involves the Weyland-Yutani Corporation hiring a team of scientists to investigate a mysterious underground pyramid discovered in Antarctica. The pyramid turns out to be a birthing ground for xenomorphs that the Predators intentionally built for hunting purposes. But then they couldn't manage it and just buried it, leaving it behind with an activation procedure if they ever felt like using it again, I guess. Leading the mission is the scientist Lex, the first woman not only to be the central hero of a Predator movie, but also to fight alongside the Predator against a common enemy. She's not exactly a very interesting character, though. I mean, she's smart, sure, and she does have a backstory about her father's death, but there isn't much to her personality. I mean, she initially turns down the mission, but changes her mind only because the alternative crew considered is just not that good. To be fair, though, none of the many characters in this movie are all that unique, considering 90% of their dialogue is about figuring out the pyramid and the aliens. Wayland is established as a dying man who wants to discover one more cool thing before he kicks the bucket, and that's pretty much all there is to him. There's another woman on the team called Russo, but she and Lex only have one conversation, and it's about how guns are like condoms. Maybe it's a good thing that Paul W.S. Anderson stuck mostly to the mission with this script. There are now 3 Preds in action this time around, and even though one of them works with Lex, they don't have much to their personalities. The Predators are never referred to by name in this movie, but I later found out that they are named Scar, Chopper, and Celtic? Not only that, but apparently the Xenomorphs have names. Like the first one to kill a predator is called Grid? Not that it really matters what they're called. I mean, the bulk of the characters exist to either be gutted, stabbed, decapitated, or used to birth more aliens. And you never get to know or like any of the human characters all that much. The only cool thing about Lex is that she wields a xenomorph head and tail like a shield and sword to go into combat. But it is very telling that the first woman who gets to be a leader in a Predator movie is also the most uninteresting. The character of Lex could easily be swapped out for a man, given how little depth and personality there is to her character. Which again, to be fair, nobody in this movie is written all that well. Keeping the tradition alive, the Predator does not kill any women in this movie, as Lex survives and Russo is killed by a chest burster. The Predators also apparently don't kill the sick, as one of them refuses to kill Wayland because he is dying. That said, Wayland still attacks the Predator and is killed anyway. So good news for the sick and the pregnant, I guess. Oh, and apparently you can win better prizes if you kill xenomorphs instead of predators, because Lex's reward for killing the xenomorph queen is one of those cool predator spears, which is way cooler than that old pistol that Harrigan got. Now, it would be nice to appreciate this Predator movie as the first one to be led by a woman, but it's more groundbreaking as a footnote of the franchise than as a entertaining movie. There are some cool special effects and some gruesome scenes, but they don't leave much of an impact, especially when the characters are so uninteresting. (2007's) Alien vs. Predator Requiem sucks. And it sucks because it has so much wasted potential. A xenomorph outbreak in a small Colorado town could be thrilling for a change of scenery. There are characters who are interesting on the surface, like a convict released from prison, a teenager trying to stand up to a bully, and a soldier returning to family life. However, these character arcs with the potential to explore gender relations don't really go anywhere. And what are they all tossed aside for? Just a murky, poorly edited assortment of alien gore and violence. There are so many scenes of xenomorph stabbings with their second mouths and the Predator exploding heads that it all becomes meaningless. The Predator doesn't even interact with the humans all that much. He just shows up to clean up a xenomorph infestation because there's a hybrid on the loose, and you can't have a bad reputation on Earth like that. The only noteworthy aspect of this movie is that it marks the first time that the Predator has killed a woman, but by accident in a crossfire. There's just nothing more to the movie than that. It doesn't do much with the Predator and has nothing to say with its human characters aside from the various ways that they can be killed. 2010's Predators, plural, takes a much different route with the hunt. Instead of the Predator aliens coming to Earth to hunt humans, they instead abduct humans and place them in a hunting reserve. This becomes a very different form of hunting known as canned hunting, in which the prey is kept contained and is easier to track. Now, this might be an acceptable practice by the Predator species, but on Earth, canned hunting is often not recognized by hunting societies as real hunting. And why would it be? What glory or rite of passage is there to be had in hunting creatures that you've abducted from their habitat and placed in a closed-off area to kill? This is especially dumb when considering the multiple predators in this scenario armed with cloaks, blasters, and blades, and they still end up dead. If you failed to kill prey in such an environment, it's not because you were not worthy of manhood, it's because you were too stupid to complete a hunt in easy mode with the guardrails turned on. And this is something that has always bothered me about the Predator movies. The Predator aliens apparently have rules for not attacking the unarmed or sick because it violates a fair sporting fight, but what fairness is there in cloaking technology and energy weapons against people armed with just guns? It's even less fair in a closed setting. Predator hunting logic is stupid. Anyway, the human characters in this Predator movie are among the most capable and compelling. A group of random humans who have committed some form of violence on Earth are dropped into an alien hunting reserve. We get to know each of them, their lives on Earth, and how they handle combat. They are soldiers, gangsters, and criminals. Although there is friction between them, they mostly wise up to their uncertain situation and figure out the traps that are set for them. They also have more insight not just on the predator species, but the very nature of hunting. Royce, a veteran played by Adrian Brody, goes so far as to quote Hemingway when discussing the subject. I also appreciated which human characters that the movie condemns. Among the surviving ensemble is Stans, a death row inmate convicted of murder and rape. During a lull in the action, Stans says this: "If we get home, I'm gonna do so much fucking cocaine. I'm gonna rape so many fine bitches. Be like, what time is it? 5 o'clock? Damn, time to go rape me some fine bitches." This comment is not treated as either agreeable or funny by the other survivors. Instead, it is awkward and uncomfortable. It makes you want to see Stans die, and he thankfully does, while calling the Predator a homophobic slur. Another interesting character is Lawrence Fishburne's Noland, a human who has survived and killed multiple predators in this reserve for several seasons. Noland's survival instincts in isolation do not make him a valuable ally or an accomplished hunter. He is portrayed as deranged and untrustworthy, which turns out to be true when he attempts to kill the survivors to hoard resources. Hunting doesn't make men better in this scenario. The big twist of the movie is that Topher Grace's character of Edwin does not want to escape the reserve. Rather, he wants to stay because he identifies with the predators. He thinks their society, where murder is a virtue, should make him right at home. He's the biggest fan of the predators, and naturally he dies because of his devotion. There is one woman among the group, that being Isabel, played by Alice Braga. And she's thankfully given more character than previous Predator movies. She has a more interesting backstory. She's a capable sniper, and there's a solid arc of her slowly opening up to Royce. And while Stans comments on her ass because he's a gross rapist, everybody else in the crew is willing to work with her without sexist comments or making a pass at her. The movie also ends on a somewhat down note, with the survivors unable to escape. There are, however, more humans being sent to this reserve, and there might be a chance to work with them to get back to Earth. But the most interesting aspect of this movie, which would carry on into future Predator stories, is the infighting. A disgraced predator is discovered by the survivors tied up at a camp. The humans decide to free the predator in exchange for helping them get back to Earth, a plan that ultimately fails, but was certainly worth trying. The presence of an unworthy predator that goes against their culture would continue into the next movie, even if it was more of a comedy. 2018's The Predator is really, really, really dumb and kind of fun here and there. Directed by Shane Black, the film follows a predator that has commandeered a ship and crash-landed on Earth with a bigger, angrier predator in pursuit. The human heroes are far more likable, as this ensemble is composed of soldiers with PTSD who have been wronged by the American government and are on the run. Quinn McKenna, played by Boyd Holbrook, is the soldier who leads this group, while trying to protect his estranged wife and son from both aliens and his government. Now, the mostly male ensemble does still crack jokes about penis and pussy, but they are not portrayed as misogynistic in how they interact with women. Quinn's estranged wife is used to her husband living a dangerous lifestyle, so she's almost too eager to grab a gun and start shooting to defend her son. It's a trait that the fugitive soldiers admire. She even manages to outsmart the government agents who try to talk down to her as she is prepared for moments where she is cornered. The soldiers also work alongside the scientist Casey Brackett, played by Olivia Munn. After rescuing a passed-out Casey, the men go out of their way to be gentlemanly about how best to make her comfortable instead of just being sexual creeps. They don't even try to stop her when she tries to leave, only stressing through words that it's safer to stick with them. She is recognized as more of an equal in this fight to figure out the Predator and save Quinn's son Rory. I also enjoyed her additions to the comedy, as when she points out that the Predator label applied by the scientist doesn't make sense, because the Predator alien is technically more of a sports hunter, but the scientists agree that Predator just sounds cooler. Considering how the men interact with women in the story, this Predator movie feels as though it's trying to correct its sexist behavior of the past. That said, there's another area where the movie stumbles hard. The young Rory is established as having autism, and this is treated as an explanation for how he can so easily decipher the Predator technology. When Quinn and Rory are reunited, one of the soldiers uses the ableist R slur, and Quinn advises them to choose a different word. One of the soldiers recognizes this correction and advises the other soldiers that Rory is the R slur. Casey tries to show support for Rory by saying that those on the autism spectrum may not have a disorder, but are really the next evolutionary step in humanity. It's a statement that reeks of cringe, like when somebody says autism is a superpower, but it turns out that is literally the case in this movie. The real goal of the Predators in this movie, and this is no joke, is to hybridize with autistic humans to evolve their species. Given that Rory is mostly portrayed as an adept learner of Predator technology, this amounts to autism just being seen as making you really smart. So that sucks. Less absurd but worth noting is that the film also features a soldier with Tourette's syndrome, which only serves as a punchline for profanity. I guess the Predators just don't want that in their species. Based on how the movie handles gender and autism, it's a mixed bag. The improved relationships between men and women says, look how far we've come, while the stumbling autism representation says, look how much further we have to go. But with so many Predator movies set in the same time period and featuring the same type of characters that are mostly American men, this franchise needed something more refreshing if it was going to continue. And we thankfully got that in the form of a prequel/spin-off movie. 2022's Prey doesn't take place in the modern day, but rather in the year 1719 amid the Great Plains. Naru, played by Amber Midthunder, is a Comanche trying to break out of medicine and into hunting. However, her tribe does not believe that she will be a cunning hunter, despite her intelligence in tracking animal behavior. When she is the only one who notices the predator threat in her land, she decides to investigate it herself. On this adventure, Naru encounters men, both Comanche and French, who do not value her words or her worth. However, it's only with Naru's smarts and negotiating that she is able to survive. For example, Naru heals one of the French injured by the predator in exchange for being taught how to use a pistol. Of course, Naru eventually defeats the predator, but not just so that she can attain the title of war chief. She hunts not for her own glory, but to look out for her people. She doesn't look down on the men who might wrong her, but saves them as she'll need their help in fighting off the predator. When gaining the role of war chief, her first act is to move the tribe to safer territory because she's looking out for them. Director Dan Trachtenberg did a fantastic job merging a Native American story of smarts with the brutal rampage of the predator. Part of what made the movie work so well is how producer Jane Myers, a member of the Comanche Nation, provided valuable notes on the period and culture being depicted. Apparently, the first draft of the script included no horses, and Myers had to stress that the Comanches were all about horses, leading to the film's many horseback scenes. Another aspect I greatly appreciated about Prey was that it doesn't fall back on references to past movies. Yeah, this is something I omitted from discussing the other Predator movies, is how they keep quoting the first movie. Nearly every sequel has the humans examining the Predator's revealed face and remarking, "What the fuck are you?" and "You are one ugly motherfucker." And it's just like, yeah, I watched the first movie. I don't need to be reminded of it constantly. It's so tiresome, and I'm glad that Prey finally broke that mold in more ways than one. The premise of Prey was so appealing that it's enough to make you wonder. I mean, what other historical eras on Earth would make for a great Predator movie? And thankfully, the director answered that question with his follow-up Predator movie. 2025's Predator: Killer of Killers is an animated anthology movie taking place across different times and cultures on Earth. In 841 Scandinavia, the Viking warrior Ursa leads an attack on a tribe that forced her to kill her father, only for her clan to fight the Predator soon after. In 1609 Japan, brothers Kenji and Kiyoshi fight for control of the throne before joining forces to defeat the Predator. In 1942, John Torres is a Navy mechanic who attempts to save lives when a Predator starship enters World War II. All three of them succeed in killing a Predator, but are also abducted by the Predators to be pitted against each other in combat on their home planet. Now, while this framing could be serviceable for some cool Predator fights and gore, and it kinda is, Killer of Killers actually has some admirable grit for its assortment of characters. After all the carnage and coming to terms with revenge, the three humans composed of men and women learn to fight against a common enemy rather than fight each other. These are people who have been betrayed at some point or not taken seriously when there's a dire threat. And watching those from different cultures connect on a level that extends beyond how well they can hack up a Predator monster is rather exciting. Of course, it helps that the animation and fight scenes are just spectacular. It really did feel like reading the most badass Predator comics that I would have loved as a kid. Best of all, the movie doesn't have any dated views on gender relations, bland characterizations for the sake of gore, or annoying Easter eggs crammed into the narrative. The most notable Easter egg that the movie has is the post-credit scene, which reveals that the Predators have captured Dutch, Harrigan, and Naru in suspended animation. Which makes sense. I mean, in the context of the movie, the Predators capture those who kill them, and they might as well be consistent. And finally, there's 2025's Predator: Badlands, the first movie in which a predator is the central protagonist with essential dialogue. Dek is a Yautja predator trying to prove himself, but he is considered so weak that his father wants to kill him off. At the sacrifice of his brother, Dek ventures off to a dangerous planet to murder the Kalisk, the most deadly creature that will prove that Dek is worthy of his tribe. There are no humans on this planet, as it is too dangerous for the species to visit. Dek instead runs across the android Thea, played by Elle Fanning. As a product of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, Thea is also devalued by the hierarchical system that created her. As the two of them combine their forces and hunt for the elusive and powerful, they soon realize that it is not worth serving those that they call family when there is no value in their devotion. Thea will not be rewarded for bringing in the Kalisk, nor will Dek be fully accepted by his murderous father. The two outsiders decide to form their own tribe along with the Kalisk child, whom they name Bud. With their found family, they proceed to murder their oppressors. On this adventure, Thea brings up the concept of alpha wolves to Dek. Now, the idea of an alpha wolf being a more aggressive and dominant member of a wolf pack has been discredited as a myth of wildlife biology. The very study of alpha wolves has been disproven, and the guy who coined the term has disavowed its usage. Thankfully, Thea uses this term more to describe someone who protects the pack than to describe someone who kills the most, even though Dek believes he can do both. Now, a criticism of this movie is that some people don't like how the Predator becomes the hero of this Predator movie by defying his culture. But this is not new. 2018's The Predator established that there are predators who go against the orders of their society. 2004's Alien vs. Predator established that predators will work with other species if it benefits them. But most importantly, the predator culture is so flawed that it makes sense for Deck to rebel against it. If the predators value the hunt as a mark of pride, why did they resort to canned hunting in the 2010's Predators movie? If the predators are supposed to be superior hunters to other species, why did they need to hybridize with autism in 2018's The Predator? There are a lot of problems with this culture, and it's satisfying to see Deck fight against it rather than stand in line for its worst attributes. Badlands is also one of the first Predator movies to more overtly target toxic masculinity. Deck is raised in a culture where being a successful hunter is the only way to prove your worth, akin to how hunting is associated with masculinity. Much like Dutch, though, Deck survives by being smarter, not stronger, and uses teamwork to defeat his patriarchal father and defy his dominance, similar to how Thea defeats her dominating sister. And this element of intelligence is what makes the Predator movies so cool. The settings and heroes might change, but a constant story element is the idea of outsmarting an intimidating enemy. The biggest guns and muscles will not win a battle if they're not used with strategy, knowledge, and maybe the help of others. Even the more abundant machismo of the 1980s original still had a knowing nature for how it addressed masculinity. And yet it could still be an exciting and explosive dose of sci-fi horror action while challenging gender perceptions. It's a rather remarkable fusion, given how much the Predator film series can showcase so much without ending up watered down over time. In some regards, I don't really like the Alien vs. Predator movies, but most of them are good. The Predator movies might not have expanded on the lingering homoeroticism of the first movie, but they have explored more aspects of gender relations, hunting culture, teamwork, and the resistance to untrustworthy authorities. So yeah, the Predator movies have a whole lot more going on for them than just big action, sci-fi horror, and the epic handshake meme. So just something to think about the next time you watch Arnold. Call an alien an ugly motherfucker.
Introducing Alien vs. Predator for the 64-bit Atari Jaguar. You might not want to play it alone.
Mom.